Since you want to live off someone, why didn't you come to me?
Gilbert leaned on the sofa, lifting his head. From this angle, I could only see his exquisite chin and his open collar. His collarbone was a sight for sore eyes. I swallowed hard. Before I could speak, a debit card was thrown at my face.
The password is my birthday.
I held the card in my hand apprehensively. So, what's your birthday date? Gilbert was silent for a long time before he sighed.
If you can't remember, just wait and starve to death.
I quickly got up from the ground and opened my yearbook. I had solemnly put Gilbert's information on the first page. He, too, left a message for me before graduation, like all my other classmates. His handwriting was beautiful, but the message wasn't very pleasant.
I hope that you would become smarter after graduation. If that won't happen, I hope you'd at least become prettier.
Every single word in that message revealed his arrogant attitude. I always thought that Gilbert disliked me. But I didn't expect him to be the first one to lend me a helping hand when I was down and out. He was like a peeping Tom hiding in the dark who finally couldn't suppress his excitement and took action on his target. To be exact, under such circumstances, if only one party had feelings for the other party, the former would be considered a pervert. If both parties' feelings were mutual, however, his actions could be explained as trying to flirt with me. Judging from his attitude, one could tell how reserved he was. A fortune teller told me that I would have to wear red this year to ward off bad luck. Otherwise, I would have a tough year. However, I did not heed his words. To my dismay, life quickly defeated me. The company I worked for underwent downsizing, and I was forced to resign. Afterward, I decided to start my own business, opening a cafe with great enthusiasm. However, I soon became the victim of unscrupulous franchisees and lost everything. I lost roughly tens of thousands of dollars, which I had saved up and invested in the shop. Coupled with the losses, I was almost ready to sell my kidney to make ends meet. I tried asking my parents, who lived far away in the county, about the harvest results of green beans this year because I wanted to try developing my career in the field of agriculture. Unfortunately, I was told that the price was not ideal, and the purchasers were pressing the price too low. I probably wouldn't be able to make a living from it, my mother said on the other end of the phone. Cecil, you have to learn to save money when living alone, or your life will be difficult. I could only sheepishly hum a reply. After I ended the call, tears fell from my eyes unbidden. The lives of adults were never easy. After answering the fourth call from my creditors that day, I finally broke down and cried while scouring through the address book. Well, I forgot to mention that I had finished the remaining 2 bottles of wine in the refrigerator before I called someone for help. Dignity was something ridiculous, under such hopeless circumstances. I had wanted to call my former colleague who once tried hooking up with me and ask him for help, but I ended up calling Gilbert instead.
Cecilia?
I blurted out, Gilbert, I can't hold on anymore. Be my sugar daddy. The voice on the other end of the line sounded angry, but what he said was unexpected.
Okay, I'll be right over to your place.
Gilbert might be sarcastic and arrogant, but he was indeed a man of action. He rang the doorbell of my house within half an hour. I dragged my feet over to open the door. Clearly, my haggard and wretched state disgusted Gilbert, who was a noble scion. Scrunching up his brows with disdain, he asked,
Cecilia Olson, is this what has become of you?
I burped from all the beer I consumed. Beer always filled me with gas. Most of the time I threw up after drinking beer. However, it wasn't because I was drunk but because I had too much gas in my stomach. Gilbert walked past me into the living room and sat on the couch.
Why didn't you contact me since you're going through a rough patch?
What would contacting you do me any good? Gilbert snorted coldly.
At least I can deal with the downsizing.
I was shocked to the core before collapsing onto the floor and laughing hysterically. I can't believe you were stalking my Instagram. Blushing for being exposed, Gilbert threw a pillow at me and snapped.
Shut up!
I fell onto the floor after being smashed by the pillow, while his bank card landed next to me. Perhaps because I had been too worn out recently, I lazily remained on the ground and was reluctant to get back up. I was so sleepy at that time. Gilbert walked over to my side, and as I turned my head, I saw his neatly ironed pants and a pair of beautiful hands. He crouched down and used his left hand to brush away the stray strands of hair on my forehead. It was a romantic moment, and for a split second, I thought he was going to lean in and kiss me. But instead of kissing me, Gilbert thumbed my nose and then burst into laughter at my comical appearance.
It had been 3 years, Cecilia, and you wouldn't even send me a message during festivals.
I closed my eyes and said, "Yes, it's been 3 years and I'm 25 now, but I'm still single."
I don't understand what you mean.
I'm lonely. I want to fall in love. Gilbert pinched my face and said,
If you want to live off me, you'd better clear your mind and focus on trying to please me.
I muttered incoherently, "Please you? How am I going to do that?" The look in his eyes darkened, and somehow, I thought I saw his eyes smiling.
I want you to simp over me every single minute of your life.
What an outrageous request. Back when I was a university undergraduate, I was able to encounter Gilbert thanks to my roommate Jenny, who was a social butterfly and had connections everywhere. Otherwise, with my background, I would never have met a scion like him. At that time, Gilbert had just broken up with his childhood sweetheart. She wanted to study abroad, but for some reason, Gilbert refused to leave his home country. In the end, the two lovers were separated by distance and went their separate ways. His best friend reserved the entire bar to cheer Gilbert up. And my beautiful roommate Jenny grabbed the chance and invited all of us to come along so we could freeload on drinks. That was how I first met Gilbert. I vaguely remembered the first sentence I said to Jenny upon seeing him was, "I want to pursue him." Jenny looked at me and sighed, "Dear, stop daydreaming, okay? Look at everyone here. Everyone covets him, including me, but he's too sacred for anyone to desecrate." After saying that, she hopped onto the dance floor and began showing off her dance moves, swaying her hips like a snake. I got excited watching her. However, I got even more excited beholding Gilbert, who was sitting some distance away from me. Despite so, under the flickering lights, I could still see how his perfectly chiseled face looked so out of place among all the other guys. His demeanor even made the girls sitting next to him feel uneasy, and the atmosphere soon grew rather awkward. According to Ronnie, Gilbert's best friend, Gilbert was actually very sad at that time. But it was hard to tell from his expressionless face. All he did was down one glass after another without saying a word. Occasionally, he would glance around coldly with annoyance written all over his face. I bet he thought it was noisy. His cold and aloof temperament at that time had me completely captivated. All I could think of was how much I loved him for his indifferent nature. How I wished I could knock him out, drag him back to my room and make babies with him. However, Gilbert didn't notice me, and all I could do was peek at him from afar. Fate still brought us together in the end. I chose dare while playing truth or dare. How I wished I could knock him out, drag him back to my room and make babies with him. I could still remember the way my heart pounded furiously at that time, so much so that I felt suffocated. I was so nervous that my palms were all sweaty, and my phone almost slipped out of my hand. I said, "Gilbert, I want to add you on WhatsApp." Perhaps the environment was too loud, for Gilbert didn't react immediately. In his drunken state, He subconsciously hummed a response before taking out his phone and adding me on WhatsApp. That was when I finally found out that he was drunk, but his face wasn't flushed. His eyes were unfocused at that time, as if he saw another girl among everyone present.